Well, hi everyone. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Juliette and I will be your host. Please note that we cannot hear you as you're all on mute. If you have any questions during the presentation, please use the chat window. The session will last about 30 minutes and once it is completed, we will address any questions. Okay, let's begin with an introduction of today's speakers with Paul and Tim. Paul, would you like to start?
Yes, of course. Thank you. My name is Paul Sidorko. I'm technical sales specialist with Co2. I'm responsible for contacting key customers and, of course, for presenting webinars to our customers.
And hello, everybody. My name is Tim Book. I'm a technical sales manager here at GSX. I'm responsible for a lot of our pre-sales work as well as a lot of trainings and implementations of the product as well as webinars.
Okay, let's discuss first of all today's agenda of the webinar, which you can see in front of you. First we're going to present challenges related to a hybrid cloud environment. Then we'll talk about advantages of using both Co2 and GSX solutions in overcoming those challenges. We'll also give you a short overview of both companies and their services. Point 3 and 4 of the webinar will concentrate on presenting Co2's and GSX's solutions for backup reporting and monitoring for hybrid environments. And of course, last but not least, we'll have a Q&A session where we'll be answering your questions on both solutions. Okay, these are three aspects of hybrid cloud challenges that we'll be concentrating today. First of all, how to reduce the complexity of managing a hybrid environment. Second important thing to cover during this webinar is how we can optimize the cost of running a hybrid. And last, number 3, how to make sure that the services you are providing are the best quality. Let's concentrate on reducing the complexity of running a hybrid environment. Managing mailboxes backup, coexistence of the messaging infrastructure, and performance of apps in the hybrid environment are the most crucial points to be taken care of. And in today's webinar, we'll present how to protect your hybrid environment from malicious or accidental activities of users, how to protect the user's data. We'll also show how to use our software to make sure that the data is archived for a quick restore in case of a disaster situation, and of course how to measure all crucial parameters and provide statistics. Okay, if we could switch to next challenge to discuss, which is a cost optimization. It's also another very important aspect to consider regarding the hybrid environment. The biggest challenge with the hybrid is how to decrease management cost. Also, who are the main consumers of services and resources in your hybrid environment, and how to be sure if your licenses are properly allocated. To give you just a preview how Co2 and GSX solutions can help with cost optimization. Our software can make sure your Office 365 licenses are not utilized by inactive users. So we can easily back up such accounts, content locally, and assign the client license to a new user of Office 365, thus decreasing the cost of running Office 365 plan.
Okay, and then one of the last parts of the hybrid cloud challenge is ensuring quality of service. We're looking at ways to be able to measure the health and the quality of the service that's being delivered. Regardless of if Microsoft is taking care of your environment or if you're handling it yourself, it's being outsourced, or some combination, what we're really looking at as far as the end user experience is their quality of service. What is that end user experience like? What are their issues? What are their challenges? And how do we measure that, the performance of the environment, regardless of what the current situation is, in the middle of a migration or in a hybrid cloud environment? That's what we're really looking to do and get out of here. We're looking at how we can test those interactions between my on-premise and cloud environments, for example, and ensuring service performance in all remote locations. So being able to ensure the same level of quality of service throughout the entire environment for all users in all locations. And we can go next slide here, please. So why Co2 and why GSX Solutions? Combining the power of both Co2 backups and GSX monitoring is really going to give you a complete suite of tools that will help be best in breed to monitor, report, and back up Microsoft infrastructures. Working together, we're really going to give you a complete picture of the experience. Again, that end user perspective, the quality of service, the management of the environment and licensing and backup, everything working together to be able to really maximize the ROI, improving systems and service management, empowering that IT professional in the hybrid world. There's new challenges associated with that, and really two products that are really going to be able to provide that for you. Okay, so next slide here, please. So the two solutions, GSX Monitor and Analyzer and Co2 here. GSX is an end-to-end remote monitoring and reporting solution, agentless, so no code installed on the servers, real-time end-user scenarios, cross-platform monitoring, multi-location monitoring, being able to, again, ensure that QoS from different locations, just like a user would, in their day-to-day jobs and activities and interactions with the services, and then also a customizable reporting dashboard to report on that information that's being gathered.
Okay, and adding to that, Co2, our solution for backup for Office 365, and of course also Exchange on-premise. We've got offline backup of Office 365 mailboxes, so we can keep them locally in case of any situation. Another option to consider is continuous backup, so all the data is being backed up constantly, giving as a result mailbox data safety. So in case of any breakdown, you can easily recover, even on the level of individual item and contact email. You can recover each content to a required location, and all this is centrally managed through a very neat and simple to use console of the software. Okay, if you go to the next slide, please.
And just to talk a little bit about GSX Solutions here, we were founded in 1996. We are headquartered in Switzerland, offices throughout the world in the US, UK, France, Switzerland, China, coming soon to a couple new locations, monitoring over 6 million mailboxes and devices throughout the entire globe. Next slide, please. Some of GSX's customers here, as you can see, some very large organizations throughout different verticals. We really like to say that we don't have too much of a focus on a particular industry or vertical. It's really a matter of the criticality of the environment. So if the collaboration suites, the messaging suites are important to your company, we're going to be a useful tool for you. Okay. And then GSX for Microsoft Unified Communications. Here again, we have some pillars of our monitoring here across all the different platforms that we're monitoring. So Microsoft Exchange and Exchange Online, Microsoft SharePoint, Microsoft Lync. We also monitor the IBM suite, so IBM Domino and Traveler and Quicker, and then also the BlackBerry suite, well, BlackBerry 5 and the new BlackBerry 12 infrastructure that has come out recently. We're a completely agentless tool like I had monitored before, so the philosophy is we do things from the end user perspective, end-to-end type tests remotely, no code installed on the server, so you don't have any administrative work for deploying the tool, maintaining and updating it on your Exchange servers, your SharePoint servers, whatever it is. No conflicts, no potential crashes on the servers. We like to say that we're just another user in the environment. We're just some Joe Schmo user using your infrastructure just like they would be. Okay, makes it very easy to turn around the tool, to deploy it, to upgrade and maintain it. Very, very minimal monthly impact as far as like a resource impact is. We have customizable alerts to give you alerts on availability and thresholds that are exceeded. So again, measuring that performance, that QoS of the environment. Automatic reports and SLA tracking through our Analyzer tool really gives you some very powerful reporting and forecasting features based upon the data that you've gathered here to see not only where the environment is, but where it's going to be going in the future. We do fully integrate with other enterprise management tools, so if you have third-party tools that you already have in place, we will be able to share data with those and send alerts to them. And then again, the basic philosophy is connecting those services and availability statistics to report on them and alert you to any potential issues in the environment. So the real-time statistics for multiple locations. Here what we're talking about is being able to measure that quality of service that's being delivered to the end user. A lot of our users now are using what we call our GSX robot user to be able to test and measure this information. So we have an architecture where you can deploy these robot users. Now these are standalone GSX locations or GSX installations. Again, no code on your servers. But these robot users are deployed in the environment and are measuring and alerting on the quality of service being delivered from those locations. So if you have a data center in, let's say, in the New York office, you can have robot users inside of your Chicago data center and Los Angeles and Shanghai and Paris, et cetera, measuring the quality being delivered to those end users, what the availability and performance is from each of those locations. All of this information being gathered, all these testing scenarios that we're doing, feeding the information into our analyzer database to report on that information. So really being able to get a true idea of the picture of the service being delivered from each of those locations again. Just like I mentioned earlier, regardless of the application that we're monitoring, we are just acting just like an end user would with true transactions that they would be doing. Everything from routing messages, opening sites, synchronizing mobile devices. All of that information being gathered from those locations and sent over to Analyzer in the dashboard to be able to detect bottlenecks in the area, forecast out for capacity planning, lots of different information inside of there. Okay. So GSX Sunshine into the cloud. The quality of service is becoming even more critical with the advent and the rise of the cloud environment here. So GSX is constantly revising our testing methodologies, our features, to be able to test and measure this end performance, specifically through our Exchange and ActiveSync end user scenarios. On top of that, we check your local network to help you determine if there's latency inside the internal environment, latency out to the cloud environment. Really trying to, again, test that end user, that SLA that's being delivered by your cloud environment. So the Microsoft SLA, for example, doesn't necessarily truly reflect the end user experience. So they may be highly available, 5 nines or 100% from Microsoft's perspective, but what are your users actually experiencing? If they cannot get to that service, it really doesn't matter if Microsoft says that it's completely available. For every reason, if your local network is having an issue or if there's account issues, whatever it is, if they can't get their work done, they don't get that service that's being delivered from an end user perspective, that service is down, that service is not available. Okay, and then using our cloud spot check reports, you can get a lot of usage information and visibility into the cloud infrastructure. So mailbox user information, ActiveSync and device information, and public folder information. Being able to grab that information is very, very critical to help determine about who's using the systems, are utilizing everything to the fullest extent, and again, that availability all ties into the reports that we're going to be able to see later on. Okay, next slide, please. The GSX performance service health checks. So we just want to really quickly show you here what kind of metrics you can get using basically 3 days of the tool here. Installing GSX Monitor in the environment, having it go out and monitor and measure the quality of service here, you can get an idea of all these different little metrics that you can measure in the environment. So the end user experience, system performance, resource optimization, storage optimization, and application performance. Through all of the different testing that we do and the scenarios that we do, which you can see on the right here, opening mailboxes and creating email and routing email messages, accessing different components of the systems. That's a way to measure the QoS of the applications and the environment. So all of this information is available inside of GSX Monitor. Reports can be created and customized to give you really, again, a kind of like a health check of the environment, not only from a server availability standpoint, but again, that service that's being delivered, the actual performance of all of these different components that you see on top of the slide here. So it can be used for like bottleneck identification, best practices, We have information available to be able to compare to other verticals. That would be similar sorts of numbers that you're getting through similar companies. We have use cases here that you can look at. Really being able to use it for maybe like a potential Office 365 migration. You've got those robot users that will give you all of the different performance and availability from different locations. And then in migration scenarios too, say if you're migrating from Domino to Exchange. All of these information that you get from GSX is really going to help you identify potential issues and bottlenecks in those environments. Okay, and now I'll turn it over to Paul, who's going to talk about the Co2 backup solution.
Okay, thank you, Tim. Before we do that, let me just give you just a short overview of what we do in Co2. As you can see on the slide here, our software is used by over 45,000 companies in over 120 countries, including users in Antarctica, actually, who are synchronizing their iPhones with Outlook. And the solutions we provide to these customers, we've got 15 commercial solutions. So next, backup software. Co2 offers email signatures and mail flow management for Exchange servers, synchronization for Exchange and non-Exchange environments. So we allow help our customers synchronizing content even without Exchange server. And also migration for Exchange and Office 365 environments. And today's part of the presentation, the backup software for Office 365 and Exchange server as well. With 8 years of experience, so we started in 2007, and our portfolio has been increasing every year, adding new software, new solutions. As you can see, we added just a short list of the rewards and certificates we received. Let me add, we are a Microsoft Gold partner. But what we actually pride ourselves most in is 95% of satisfied customers, and this is based on the surveys and conversations and talks to our customers that our support team actually provides on an everyday basis. Okay, if we could go on to next slide, please. I would like to show you some of the customers that we help. We've got Shell, which we help synchronizing their Outlook data, huge oil tankers. Facebook, as you can see, is integrating their newly acquired startups with our solutions. We also help manage signatures, email content, and email flow for the French branch of UNICEF. And the list is quite long. We've got T-Systems, we've got Mitsubishi. The point is, similarly to GSX, we don't concentrate on one or two branches. We try to aim at all the customers, all the companies using either Exchange servers or Office 365. Okay, if we can, let's just take a look at the backup solution. First of all, if a company would like to use a backup, they would need to answer the question, why do they need it? First of all, to ensure legal compliance. Well, the companies and organizations are often obliged to keep a local copy of Office 365 or Exchange data. So legal acts like e-discovery or similar legal acts require such scenarios. So in this case, the Co2 backup solution would greatly help. We need to protect ourselves from malicious activity or accidental activity. So we need to be sure that the user's data is safe in case of any accidental deletion of mailbox items or intentional acts of damage. What I mentioned before is cost efficiency. So we don't want to pay for inactive Office 365 user. We can easily back up their content and free up the license for another employee, other person. Data archiving is another aspect that the backup software and the backup solution would be used for, actually. So every once in a while, we may want to archive data that don't require to be immediately accessible, and as a result, reducing mailbox size and saving space. And last but not least, disaster recovery. I would say it's quite self-explanatory here. Well, we need to be sure, 100% sure that in case of a breakdown, the data is safe and can be recovered in same environment or even different environment. Okay, if we could proceed, we'll take a look at a short overview of our backup software. So what we can achieve using Co2 backup solution for both Office 365 and also Exchange environment. So we've got automatic backup, fully customizable local backups. So we can manage through the programs console that we can automatically back up the content of Office 365 mailboxes and Exchange mailboxes in our organization. We can recover the items which were backed up before, even to the level of recovering a single item, single event, single email to the same environment or to a different environment. So for example, we could get access to the Office 365 content, back it up locally, and then recover to Exchange environment. Continuous and one-time backups. In a moment I'll show it how it works. The program can constantly contact your Office 365, your hybrid accounts, and back them up locally, or on demand we can just create a backup job that will be responsible for one individual account even. And what I mentioned before, legal compliance. The program can help meeting legal requirements, and many countries require companies to locally store electronic information that may be relevant for, let's say, future investigation or evidence purposes. Co2 backup will allow store all of your mailbox data for on your local hard drives as long as you need them. So basically, these are the most important things to consider, and using Co2 backup solutions. Now, if we could take a look at the software itself, how it manages to back up the content, I'll gladly present it. Okay, I hope we can see the screen, and let's take a look at the backup solution. What you can see here in the screen is the program.
For now, we cannot see you. Can you just click? I just assign you as a presenter, and you will need to share your screen to press the button so that we can see.
Okay, apologies for that.
Let's give Paul a moment to get connected. All right, it's coming.
Thank you. Is it okay now?
Yes, it is okay. Thank you.
Sorry guys for that. Okay, let's get back. So what we can see here is the program dashboard, the programs console. The console itself is divided to 4 elements. The first one is the dashboard, giving us the most important information on the alerts, on the status of current backup job. As we can see here, we've got backup job going on. The program is working, connecting to our environment. In the next window, we've got jobs, so we call them tasks, that allow us to back up content from Office 365, from Exchange environment as well. Next cell here gives us the storages, so we can define our local storages to keep the content of backed up mailboxes. Define server connections. In a moment I'll describe it more. The program simply needs to connect to a given Office 365 or Exchange location, and the last part is the help information, the licensing, quick tools and manuals. Okay, so let's switch to jobs. Jobs are actually the tasks that you assign to back up a content of Office 365 or Exchange environment. To the right here, I hope you can see backup job running, so it's running continuously. Of course, we can specify, or we can select multiple backup jobs that will be pointing to individual mailbox, to a group of mailboxes. Let's just quickly go through a wizard that will allow us to create such a backup job. So I'm just clicking new. I'll just name it, and we'll simply need to go to a few steps to assign or create a backup job. So we've got types of backup: continuous backup and one-time backup. The naming is self-explanatory, but let me just explain. Continuous backup will be constantly checking the content of mailboxes selected for the backup job. One-time backup will contact a given destination one time, make the backup, and that's it. Okay, let's just select continuous. Next step is to define the scheduler when we would like to the backup job to start on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, or custom defined scheduler. So let's just leave it without for a moment. I think here we got the key point to connect to the source data, so what we want to back up, which account, which plan. So we need to connect to our Office 365 in this case. We can also use Exchange connection through administrator's account. Then we can just list mailbox, all mailboxes, group of mailboxes to be backed up locally. And let's just select one. Okay. Next step tells us to select the storage. So we can create new storage locally, of course, which is password protected and encrypted, so we are sure no one is accessing the storage except for the administrator. We can select existing backup storage in the software. Let's do that. Time filter is the next step, where we can just select which items or what kind of items we want to back up. All items or elements older or let's say younger, right, or more recent in the content. In this case, we can just go with all items regardless of their age. Last step is to select so-called additional folders which are not commonly used. We can just select or deselect these additional folders in this wizard. So basically, what we need to point here is to define how often the program should contact a given environment, what kind of data it should back up, and where. So basically, once we have this, we can just set up a backup job, and the program, as you can see to the right here, is accessing the Office 365 and backing up the content. Now, if you want to restore it, because basically that's the main point of having a backup, to easily restore this, we'll just go to last tab here, backups, and as we can see, we've got the list of accounts being contacted by the software, and the program will list first of all the accounts, then the folders located in the accounts, and the items. So basically, if we would like to restore an element, something's missing, something's not difficult, not easy to locate, we can just right-click on the entire account, or one folder, or even individual item, and then simply restore it to a location we would like to have it back to. So shorter wizard this time, telling us to locate the plan or the location where we want to restore the content back to. So we can go to Office 365, we can restore to original location, we can change the folder that we can restore the data to, and basically this is all we need to do to have the content back. So let me just select it here, and one last option to consider to set up is which version of the item, of the content we want to restore. The program is continuously backing up the items, so if there are changes, the items are also saved in multiple versions. So we can stay with the defaults actually at this point. The program will be now contacting to the target environment, restoring the content back to where it was stored. And basically that's it. Let me just sum up. I understand we don't have much time to present the tool. Let me just sum up what the program does for you. It will easily back up Office 365 and Exchange mailbox storage. And in case of any disaster recovery, any breakdown, you can just easily recover the content to the original location or to any location on Office 365 or Exchange server. And that's the main thing the program does for you. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul.
Now let's give Tim a little moment to get connected.
Sure. Okay, and now we should see my screen here. Somebody let me know if we can't. So this is GSX Monitor and Analyzer. This is a monitoring and reporting tool for all of your collaboration and messaging platforms. So on our dashboard here, I can see my entire environment. I've got basically every server configured here. We have our Exchange servers with Exchange 2013 and 2010. We have SharePoint, SQL servers. We have Domino, Quicker, Traveler, Same Time, BlackBerry clustered servers, Traveler clustered servers, URL monitoring, port monitoring, all on one dashboard here. So I can very, very quickly see where my problem servers are and if I have to address any issues. We also have a very flexible alerting system inside of the platform. So if I open up one of my server configurations here, depending upon the type of alert that's being generated, I can customize where my alerts are going to. I can send them to third-party software, emails and SNMP traps and pages. I can set reminders and escalations. Again, a very flexible alerting system here. So you can view this dashboard and you also get proactive alerts. All of the different platforms that we monitor, again, the philosophy is that we're an agentless tool that's installed in your environment and monitors them just like a user would. So from an Exchange perspective, actually making connections to the server, checking on the status of the CAS arrays and the DAG, looking at the individual services, Exchange scenarios. So under our Exchange scenario tab here, I can create different synthetic transactions that would simulate user activity, opening mailboxes and routing email messages, searching items, resolving usernames, anything you can really come up with here. The BlackBerry side of things, you can connect to the services and check their statuses, SRP status, making actual active sync connections to the server. So not just port and process checking, but actually seeing if the service being delivered is available. Similar sorts of concepts on the active sync scenario. So using the active sync protocol, opening mailboxes, creating email, resolving usernames, et cetera, et cetera. From the Domino perspective, opening up connections through NRPC, opening up mailboxes and doing replication reports and Domino database performance monitoring. From the SharePoint perspective, opening up websites or SharePoint sites and applications and using web services, monitoring the status of all the individual roles. So the major point, and even on the link servers and the same time servers, the major point is that we're using it just like a user would, measuring the performance and availability and that quality of service that's being delivered. All of that information here can be graphed and sent over to our reporting tool, which I'm going to show momentarily. But if I dig into our spot check reports here, for example, we can see active sync reports on devices both on on-premise and cloud environments, public folder information, and then mailbox information as well, again, for both environments here, to give you an idea of the utilization and allocation of resources in each of the environments. So all of this information is gathered by our GSX robot users that are installed in the environment. Everything is sent over to the GSX Analyzer tool. This is the reporting tool. It's a web-based tool here that you can give people customized logins to be able to see only the information that you want them to see. If they have a login to the site, they can customize this dashboard with the statistics and graphs and information that they're curious and have available to them. What a lot of our customers do is have the reports created automatically and sent out to people via email, FTP, or uploaded to a local folder. But on this dashboard here, I've got all the information that I can, again, customize. I've got my latest alert information, and if I drill down into the alert section here, I can see a record of all the different alerts that were generated by GSX Monitor. So availability alerts for servers and some of our scenarios that we're running, email routing, creating folders and mailboxes, access to Domino databases, whatever it is, besides the alert happening inside of GSX Monitor, you've got a record of it inside of Analyzer as well that you can do some reporting on. We have all of the different statistics that we're gathering on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis. So if I pop open my statistics here, I can look at all the information, the raw numbers that we're gathering by GSX. And once it loads here, I can select this by platform. I can select which GSX station, those robot users. So take active sync scenarios here, for example. I can measure what active sync performance looks like in all the different scenarios that I can create, but I can see what it looks like throughout the entire environment or from the EU over to the New York data center, let's say, and then from the Americas to the New York data center, and then from Asia to the New York data center. So I can start seeing what the performance and quality of service is from each of those locations, where my users are actually sitting. I can export this information to CSV and PDF, but what I do with that information normally is create these trend reports. So here I've got a report that I've manually created, and I've said, show me all of my statistics throughout all of my platforms. So I can drill down into what I'm interested in taking a look at. So we'll take a look at Exchange server availability. I can build my graph here. I can say, give me the information for server uptime. I've got the historical information based upon the period, and then I've got a prediction or a forecasting based upon the history of the information. So I can start creating custom graphs here, and I can say, give me my server uptime graphed against the CPU usage, see if there's any issues here. Now, obviously, the scale of the numbers makes it a little bit funny looking, but I think you get the basic idea. You can get this report created and looking just the way you want, export it to CSV and PDF. So if I click on PDF here, I can choose exactly what statistics that I want to look at. I'm going to look at my graphs as well. I can have a customized PDF template that would have company logos and headers and footers and things like that. And then I would create the report here. It'll just take a second here to launch inside of Adobe. But that can be automatically scheduled, again, to be sent out via email to the people that are waiting for it. So you don't have to have people log in here to look at the reports that are created or create their own reports. All of this information can be sent to them automatically. Okay, and I have a somewhat large database here, so that might take a second here to load. I'll just give it just 1 second. Okay, sorry about that. So the information is right here. As you can see, I can customize it with a logo, all the different information that I'm viewing here, and all the different statistics and graphs that I had exported. So this one's a very large report because I did my entire environment, but you can drill down and specify which ones you want to look at. And then our last part here is the environmental health report. So it's another way to look at the data here. We're talking about SLAs and KPIs here. So using these environmental health profiles that I've created, I can very quickly see, am I meeting expected SLAs in the environment, uptime or server availability, whatever it is. Not only am I meeting that information or those goals, but what kinds of statistics and KPIs could be impacting my SLA. So using these reports here, I can very quickly see if some of my servers are reaching my SLA, some of them are in danger, and some of them are not meeting my SLA, but I can also drill down and see if there's any information I can glean from here that might impact my SLA later on. So if I open up another example here, I'm just going to open up one of my Domino servers here. And I've got environmental health report called Domino Uptime. I'm going to click on refresh. And it's going to show me I've got servers that are meeting my SLA for uptime, that are in danger, and that are not meeting it. But even the servers that are meeting the SLA, if I drill down into the information, let's take this guy here for instance, I'm meeting my SLA, but if I look at my network availability, it's in danger. If I look at the CPU utilization, it's starting to get very high. RAM utilization is very highly utilized, and free disk space is starting to go down. So I can drill down into the server information and get an overview of that server over a period of time. All the different stats that I was looking at before, see if I can spot any trends or see any issues coming up, recent statistical information and recent alerts, all available in one little dash. So the theory here is I can very quickly see, am I meeting the SLA, but even if I'm not, am I going to have a problem later on? It's part of what we like to call our proactive reporting in addition to the proactive monitoring inside of the GSX Monitor tool. Okay, so the major points to take away, it's an agentless remote solution that will monitor the availability of those services, not just port checking and network checking and making sure processes are open, actually testing to see if what your users are expecting to get out of the services you're providing is actually being delivered. Okay, so I'm going to turn it back over to Juliet here for a little bit of Q&A.
Yes, thank you very much. Tim. And it's time for the Q&A session. We have received quite a few interesting questions. Let's get started with the first one, and it will be for you, Paul. Can users work with their mailboxes during the backup process?
Yes, thank you for the question. Yes, of course. The entire process is basically running in the back end, so nothing is being closed, no accounts are locked for the process of the backup. Basically, the end users do not notice anything in terms of their accounts during the backup process. So they do. They absolutely can work with their accounts.
Excellent. Thank you. Again for you, Paul, can I restore to on-premise locations?
Sorry, please repeat the question.
Can I restore to on-premise locations?
Okay, I understand. Thank you. Yes, naturally. As I was trying to explain in the short demo, you can restore the content either to its original location or to a different storage. So let's say you back up Office 365 account, you can restore it to an Exchange on-premise location, basically with a few clicks.
Thank you. Teambook, when you check the web services, is there any impact on the server?
Oops, sorry, I'm mute there. No, all of our checking that we're doing, all the different testing, the monitoring, the synthetic transactions, we're doing it just like another user would. So think of it as adding another user to your location. So if you're worried about resources or capacity and potential impact on the servers, remember there's nothing installed on your servers. We're just like another user. So think of it as hiring a new employee.
Thank you. And what exactly do you do with ActiveSync?
So for ActiveSync, we have the availability of the service itself on like the BlackBerry server, for example, monitoring the processes associated with it, but also what we call ActiveSync scenarios. That's a little part that I was showing earlier. It's connecting to the servers using the ActiveSync protocol, and then using that protocol, doing different types of tasks or activities that a user would be doing from their mobile devices. So, for example, logging into a mailbox, creating an email, creating a folder, and maybe searching for a username when they're trying to create that email and resolve that username. It's testing that availability of those services through that protocol to make sure that your end users who have their devices out in the environment, for example, can do that work. It's one thing to check the server availability and to check to see that the process is in memory, let's say, and no errors in the logs. But if you're not actually testing that environment, testing that process, you're not going to know if your users are able to use that information. Because we've all seen the situations where the server's up and running and everything seems to be in memory and no errors in the console or something like that. But the end effect is people are complaining, I'm not getting my mail, or I can't open up this mailbox, for example. That's the kind of testing that you're going to get with GSX.
Thank you very much. And we're just about to go over time with this webinar, so if we did not get the chance to answer all questions, please be ensured that we will get back to you in the near future. Thank you everyone for attending today's webinar. There's an evaluation that will show up in your browser, so if you can take just a minute to provide us with your feedback, that's appreciated. And thanks again, and have a great day, everyone.
Thank you as well.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.
Have a good day. Bye-bye.